First off, I'll just like to introduce myself. My name is Jesse Reynolds. On social, I go by Rover Reynolds, so you can call me Jesse, you can call me Reynolds, Rover, whatever you want. Alright, secondly, I'll just like to tell you what I'm doing today. Let's see, a couple weeks ago, I snapped my rear set. See that? So as you can see, I broke my rear set, and right now I just got some JB weld to hold it on there. It works pretty good, and if you zip ties, just in case the JB weld fails, I won't lose my peg. So I'm going to replace it with this one. I got it from Partzilla for fairly cheap. I think it was about 45 bucks and then shipping fees or whatever, so it's not bad. You can find sets on eBay for like 120 for a set, but I just needed one. The parts that you'll need for this swap is a ratchet, an 8mm socket, a 12mm socket, and a 19mm socket, which I'm using a 3/4. I don't have a 19. I don't recommend using the wrong kind of socket, but that's all I have. I got some pliers to remove any clips, Threadlock for whenever I'm done with everything. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all this junk, and then I will start taking off the pegs. I'm going to start with this 19mm bolt and then this 12mm bolt. Remove the 19mm bolt and the 12mm bolt right there. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Come on. It's just barely hanging on. Wow. Looks like this would be easier if I remove this little piece right here. So I'm going to push that out real quick. This slid out way easier. I'm just going to turn around to its back side like this and take the master cylinder off and remove these springs right here. So then this whole thing should just come right off. I'm going to start with the 8mm bolts first, and then I'll work my way to the clip holding the brake lever on, and then I'll get the springs. Alright, I got the master cylinder bolts removed, the 8mm bolts right there. Looks like now I should probably try to get this piece off right here. So there is a proper tool for this, but I probably don't have one, so I'm just going to use pliers. So to get that bracket off right there, this right here, I use these, and what I did was I just put it in the middle of them like so, and then I spread these open, and whenever I got enough room I just pulled it off. So hurt my finger, but it worked pretty good. So on to the next step. Just got to get these springs off right here. Okay, this spring right here is fairly easy to get off. You just pretty much have to lift it up and it slides out and you can remove it. Now this one, don't look like there's any prying or anything. You just gotta work her up a little bit and then you can pull her out. So I got the old rear set off. Pretty easy. And now I'm left with all this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this one on so I don't forget how to do it first off. And then I will put these on it, or the pegs on it, after it's installed. So basically, I put my helmet on so y'all can see what I'm doing better. I'm going to work backwards from what I did earlier. So, that being said, on this piece right here, that was holding on the brake bracket, I'm going to add a little grease to it and slide it on there. And yes, gel toothbrushes have many uses, including applying grease to stuff. I don't need a whole lot, just a little. Alright, get it nice and greased up. Put that back. This is why I brought these, because I hate working with greasy hands. Wipe off the excess there. Okay. That's not right. Get there. You there. Now I just gotta hook that like that. So what do I need? This and these. These are very important. So far so good. I got this little pin back on. I used these again. It was a little complicated, but I just did the same method as taking it off. I just kind of put one side in the groove right here, and then never was laid over on this side. I just stuck it in the middle and pried them open, you know, like that. And then it just kind of snapped on there on its own. So that worked out way better than I thought it would. I got this spring back on right here. This slid back in its spot right there. The fat part of the spring goes on top, and the long part goes on bottom. So far so good. Looks like all that's left is I need to put the master brake caliper back in its little slots. And this is the part where I'll be using the Threadlock. Most of the time you can see if the parts had it on before. If it did, I highly recommend you put it back. Alright, so I got the master cylinder back on there, and I forgot to say at the beginning of the video, whenever you're doing anything with bikes or motorcycles, whatever you want to call them, it's highly recommended to use torque wrenches, and I do not have one, so you know, if you have the money, go splurge on it. It's really good to have for stuff like this, so you don't over tighten bolts and snap on the inside. Here's an example right here. Whenever I clean the spinner and change this gasket for the oil pan, I broke this bolt tightening it up, and I could probably remove all this and get the bolt out and put in a different one, but until I clean that spinner out again, I'll just leave it alone. It's worked for now, so you know, none of this moves when I move the clutch. I have it on there pretty tight with the zip ties, so just a recommendation, get a torque wrench if you have one, or if you can. So now that everything is back on how it should be, got these springs on here, there, the master brake cylinder is back on. I'm going to put it back onto the frame. Now, it doesn't look like this bolt had any thread lock on it, so I'm just going to leave it alone because I plan on getting some rear set savers anyway, and I think they mount right there. Here, right there. So I'll just hold off on that. I'll just put this back on. See, it's all nice and clean. So I got everything back mounted up right. Got the 12-meter bolt back in. Got the 19 back in nice and snug. Didn't need thread lock on that one either. It has a locking bolt on it, which a locking bolt is that little lip on the inside if you didn't know. Now I guess the last thing to do is to get this off, the foot peg, and the passenger peg, which I use the passenger pegs to stand on when I do wheelies because I don't have a wheelie bar right now. All I got is this little mud rack, which I got on eBay for like 40 bucks or so. As you can see, it saved my butt a few different times. So if you don't have a whole lot of money for a stump bar, you know, these work for now. And it feels like if I do it too hard again, it's just going to snap off. And, you know, I definitely don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this off. Alright, so it looks like to take this off, he's got to straighten this little cotter pin out, and it probably just slides right out and comes off. So let's try it. I'm just going to use these right here. These Needle Nose Pliers. I'm going to spin it around to access it easier. Okay. Almost lost this little guy. And right there. Now it looks like this probably just pushes on out. No loose washer. Pull her out. Voila. So it looks like this before I get too far into it. Looks like the spring was sitting in this little hole and was just kind of hanging out up there. So I'm just gonna put it right back on how I took it off. So I'm kind of having a hard time figuring this out. It looked like it was just hanging out like this. So let's try this. Let's just try it real quick. I'm gonna do to make this a little easier. Just put a little grease on her. Just a little. Alright. Okay. Get that in. So that was my mistake earlier. This little part right here rests on the top of the foot peg, not on the rear set itself. So what I did was I just set it in there, set it on top of here, slid this down, and it looks like it's functioning how it should. Folds back. So yeah, looks good. So next what I'll have to do is put that cotter pin in. But that can wait a minute. Let's get the rear peg off. So it looks like on this, it's the same thing. Just got to remove this cotter pin right here. Slides out. You can take it out. So let's give it a whirl. Okay, so I'm noticing on this one, there's like this little washer right here on the inside. Probably don't want to lose that. So let's be nice and careful when we pull it out. So it came out like this. I don't know if you can see that. It came out like this. That little ball there. So be really careful pulling this out. If you can see, there's like a little groove section in the back where that little L piece goes in, and the rounded off side goes towards you. You can't forget about that little ball. I went ahead and put a little grease in there for easier movement. So now I'm going to try to align it up and get the pin back in. If you have it, I recommend using a little grease. It really helps get stuff like this where it needs to go. Alright, and now that both pegs where they need to be, I'm going to go ahead and put the cotter pins back in, and then that'll be it, I think. Take a little test jiggle. It doesn't go anywhere. That'll work. Get the foot brake one on. So I got the cotter pins back in. There's one. Still functional. There's the other. Still functional. Everything's on there nice and tight. Springs are in. Looks like the brake still works. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I plan on getting some rear set savers, and there's a guy named Grom Beardo. You can find him on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. You go to grombeardo.com or .org. I don't really remember if it's .com or .org. But anyway, he has all sorts of Grom parts from OG to SF to the newest model. Mine's an OG, so I'm going to get some set savers for it. He has some really cool how-to videos, so if you have time, check him out. Grom Beardo. Here's his little logo. So yeah, thank you for checking me out on my very first how-to video, my very first anything on YouTube. Thank you for your support, and have an excellent day.